This is the Barbados Today afternoon news for Thursday, March 1st. Thank you for joining us. I am Mary Claire Williams. Our top story, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Civil Service, Alison Ford, has put public servants on notice regarding their conduct on the job. Addressing Day 4 of the annual Week of Excellence this morning, Ford issued a veiled warning to those whose behavior he says is unacceptable. Barbados Today's Emmanuel Joseph reports.
Ford's position on workers' conduct in the public service was in response to what he acknowledged are unflattering comments being made against government employees for their level of conduct. He noted then that to many people, excellence is not associated with public servants, as evidenced by remarks in both print and electronic media. The Permanent Secretary conceded that public servants have been at the receiving end of many negative comments, in many cases by people who know very little about the functioning of the service, but in some instances by those who should know better. However, in a strong message to public servants, Ford sought to assure Barbadians that he does not support what he termed shoddy or unprofessional behavior by public servants. And in a more conciliatory stance, he defended those employees who work hard and are dedicated and who contribute in no small measure to the development of Barbados. From the Public Sector Reform Office in Warren, Emmanuel Joseph for Barbados Today.
Attorney at law and social activist David Comissiong has hit back at charges leveled against him by Prime Minister Freundel Stuart in relation to the stalled Hyatt project. Addressing a recent town hall meeting in New York, Prime Minister Stuart suggested that the opposition Barbados Labour Party was behind ongoing legal efforts by Comissiong to frustrate attempts by his government to get the multi-million-dollar hotel development up and running. Stuart went as far as to point out that Motley and Comissiong are first cousins. However, in a swift response, Comissiong dismissed Stuart's statements as absolute folly and foolishness. One government senator is calling on the Barbados Water Authority to hire a crisis manager to function as a buffer between the state and those affected by the chronic South Coast sewage mess. Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Irene Sandiford Garner, is describing the ongoing sewage overflows as a national crisis, and she told the final sitting of the Senate last night that the business owners should be thoroughly updated after each weekly meeting which the authorities hold on the sewage issue.
Now, that is not a job which can be done by an ordinary spokesperson or a technical person. I do believe, and I'm just making this suggestion now on the spot, that probably Barbados Water Authority could benefit from a trained crisis manager who is skilled in communication, who can come and there are people who are crisis communicators, and I'm sure there's one in Barbados who could probably come on board in this situation, which is a national crisis, and communicate with those affected on a weekly basis and act as a buffer between the affected and the state.
Meanwhile, Independent Senator Lady Carol Haynes, who lives on the South Coast, is also concerned about the impact that the sewage leaks are having on residents and businesses.
There are a lot of challenges now for businesses on the South Coast. As I was coming today on Golf Club Road, there was a whole line of traffic, and I asked myself, what is causing this traffic? There's got to be a funeral or something. And then I realized, because I've heard it, people say it on the radio, that people are now using Golf Club Road so as to get away from the coast road. And if I say so myself, I do the same thing. There are a lot of businesses on that South Coast Road. We've all seen the pictures of the sewage, and there are many businesses that have closed over the past few months. Today I heard that Scotiabank has closed temporarily. Every day it seems there's another business, and several of the businesses report like a 50% reduction in their business over the last few months with the sewage problems.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
In news from the region, St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chasney says Parliament has been updated on the island's Citizenship by Investment program. This after the opposition Labour Party accused his administration of non-compliance. We get the details from HDS News Force.
Who are the foreign nationals that now possess St. Lucian passports under the Citizenship by Investment program? The question has provided much fodder for heated debate in Parliament. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Alan Chasney has oversight of the CIP unit. He issued his maiden statement on the CIP report in 2016, which was later criticized by the opposition, which has accused the government of failing to comply with the guidelines prescribed in the CIP Act. Prime Minister Chasney remains resolute that his administration abides by CIP legislation.
Everything comes to Parliament. I mean, the last report that was put out by CIP has come to Parliament. We've been asked to say how many people have been approved. I've given that number. So on a quarterly basis, we're going to be reporting as to how many people have come out, and then whatever the requirements are and the legislation, we will fulfill. There's nothing that we have to hide. We've been very transparent in everything that we've been doing with the CIP. So we're gonna move on, continue moving on in that direction.
What does the legislation say? The CIP Act requires that the Minister of Finance table the annual report submitted by the board in Parliament detailing the work and activities of the unit, the number of applications made, granted and refused, the names, addresses and nationalities of successful applicants and any qualifying dependents, and the amount and other details of the investment. According to statute, this must be done within the first 3 months after the end of the fiscal year. Former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony alleges that failure to do so could land the government in legal trouble.
And on the international scene, Russian President Vladimir Putin has unveiled an array of nuclear weapons, saying they could hit almost anywhere in the world without being detected. We get more in this Reuters report.
Vladimir Putin has delivered his most aggressive speech in years. Just weeks before Russia's general election, the country's president suddenly unveiled an array of new nuclear weapons, including a missile he says could reach almost any point in the world unchallenged.
Several points of the renewed US nuclear strategy, which lower the threshold of using nuclear weapons, provokes great concern. You can reassure anyone in any way behind the scenes, but if we read what is written, and what is written is that it can be launched in response to an attack with conventional weapons or even a cyber threat.
Putin's remarks to lawmakers come as NATO and Russia are deadlocked in a massive build-up of troops in Eastern Europe, levels not seen since the Cold War. And using video presentations, the president said his new weapon would be difficult for any anti-missile system to intercept, rendering NATO's batteries in the region useless. He also mentioned underwater nuclear drones and supersonic and laser weapons.
Any use of nuclear weapons against Russia and its allies, small or medium, or any strength will be perceived as a nuclear attack on our country. The response will be immediate and with all due consequences.
The Russian leader stated the country's doctrine is purely defensive in response to countries like the United States. Putin is widely expected to win the March 17th election, even though today's speech is the first time he's given an indication of his plans for the next 6 years.
That's news. Remember, there's more on our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also find us on Izumi Media in bus terminals and supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also find us on Mix 96.9 FM. I am Mary Claire Williams. Good afternoon.